This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Good Ride, where we've been keeping it average part-time since 2006 and full-time since 2010. I'm James Beastie, and this is the Rossi One. Next to it is the Resurgance, right here, and the Revanent. And I'll be comparing this board against those two, as well as the Juggernaut and the Jigsaw, the Yes Basic Unink, and the Jones Mountain Twin, two other all-mountain peers that I rode these against. I primarily rode Burton Kendos and Union Atlas. And to give you a short summary, this is a very versatile all-mountain board that you can ride centered and treat like an all-mountain freestyle board, but it has much more directional float than most mountain twins like the Rossignol, Jigsaw, and Juggernaut, because it has setback on side cut as well as more setback on board. And that makes it a very versatile one-board quiver. The only complaint about all three of these boards is I wish they had the camber profile similar to at least the Jigsaw, so they were more fun to turn, but the rest of the board is great. It's buttery, it's playful, and it blends well just about everywhere you go. When it comes to sizing, this 56 felt just right. I really liked that it felt like a little more board than the old 56, and it felt just right for me. Maybe it's a touch wider, maybe they just designed it a slight bit differently, but it works really well with my size 9 boots, and I didn't have any problems with my weight. Now, when it comes to the shape, it's kind of twin-ish, and you can see the nose and tail have a different shape, but as far as the side cut goes, it feels really centered on board and has a really good kind of double-ender, aka twin kind of feel to it on snow. And then you throw in that camber profile that is basically cambered just to about the inserts, which I would definitely prefer a little more, but as it stands right now, it is very forgiving, very easy to skid a turn, and it also tracks really well one footing off the chair and going down a long flat cat track. It does a very good job being stable in all conditions. When it comes to flex, you know, this is kind of a 7 out of 10, and I feel it pretty much, it feels kind of like 7 throughout, kind of just on the medium stiff side of medium. If you compare that to the Revanent, you can see this is a little stiffer, but not by much, and it seems to have a little more give in the nose and tail, but it is slightly longer. Here is the Resurgance, and you know, this is supposed to be softer, I believe, and I can feel it a little more in the tip and tail, but in the center, it still feels pretty stiff. All three of these boards are much easier to butter than you would think for the flex, and that's because all three of them have that same early rise starting at about the bindings. So there's so much rocker, it just already bends easy, and then you have that leverage and it bends even more. So it's very easy to butter in the nose and tail. Then from there, as far as pop goes, I think the board has a little more energy than the past models, so it pops okay, but it wasn't just a pop machine, and I always felt like I was working a little harder than I'd want to get this thing to spring. When it comes to speed, all three of these boards are very competent in terms of speed. The 1LF is the smallest of the three, but it felt like it was right there with these two, even though it's a 2 to 3 centimeters shorter than the ones on the left here, the Revanent and the Resurgance. I was kind of surprised. I thought this would be a little more chattery, but that light frame technology inside the board here really seems to dampen up the ride. It's kind of like a clear urethane, and you can see it when you hold it up against the light. It's pretty cool. And it just felt damp and good in all conditions. It didn't chatter too much. With the early rise, all three of these boards kind of did a lot of this, that clown shoe in the tip and tail. But with the 1LF, it didn't really transfer up into your bindings and make the ride feel more chattery than it did. It kind of stopped before it got to your body, and I like that. These two weren't bad either, the Resurgance and the Revanent, but their chatter factor was a little higher sooner because they don't really have that kind of cool light frame technology that I could see. the 1LF is my choice for all-day resort riding. It just handles everything really well and just is good from the morning groomers, even if they were a little hard and micro bumpy, all the way up to soft, messy snow in the afternoon. It's just not a very fatiguing ride, and I really like that. When it comes to edge hold, all three have what's called 5S technology, 5 bumps throughout the side cut, very much like Magnet Traction, because at one time they were all under the same parent company, Quicksilver, and so Rossignol used the Mervin, Libtech, and GNU Magnet Traction technology. Now they've refined it, it's their own kind of thing. It has very good grip in hard to icy snow without being too grabby in soft snow and powder, where the Revanent and the Resurgance are a little more grabby in powder because they have a more pronounced 5S technology. I think these are better for hard to icy snow days, but this is just a better all-around board for most people like me who ride at places like Mount Bachelor, and I used to ride at Mammoth, and it never really got that icy, but it was good to have that disruption, that extra grip from when it got a little hard. Now, when it comes to turn initiation, I feel like this is a little slower edge to edge than the past models, but I really like that feel because it just feels more smooth and consistent in a size 156. The old 156 that I used to ride, the 1LF, was really quick, and it was almost too quick for me. Now it feels like it's just mellowed out a touch to where it's medium fast, depending on your boot size, but if you're matched up correctly, that's how it should feel. And I like this better. Before I was torn between the 56 and 59. Now I'm just all 56. You can do all kinds of turning radiuses with this. Everything from circle carves to long drawn out S-turns. It's a pretty turny board and it can kind of react to any kind of turning mood you're in pretty well. But it does it without a lot of spring and a lot of drive out of the turn because of, I think it's because of that minimal camber profile. And all three of these boards were kind of the same. They each had a slightly different personality in terms of how they turned, but the 1LF was my favorite to ride out of all three of these. But the Juggernaut, the Jibsaw, the Yes, Basic on Ink, and the Jones Mountain Twin were all much more fun to turn with. They had more spring, more drive, more pop out of each turn. And I don't understand why their mountain freestyle boards have so much camber. I think I'd have a much better life getting a Juggernaut or a Jibsaw and an XV as a complete quiver to kind of handle almost every type of situation I want, from icy snow to powder, than I would this one board quiver, just because of the camber profile. While I didn't get powder, we got skunked this year when these boards arrived, just Bachelor shut off. But when it comes to directional float, the Rossi 1LF and the Resurgance have more setback on board than the Revanent, which I thought would be different because the Revanent is marketed more as the surfy, powder-friendly board, but I would rather be on the 1LF first and then the Resurgance second and then the Revanent third, because it has a little bit less setback on board than these other two. They can get a little more directional, provide a little more directional float, especially with that early rise in the nose and then being set back so far. To me, that's surfy. The closer you get to the tail, the more surfy the board usually feels. And being more centered with the Revanent, that doesn't feel as surfy to me. So overall, good board and powder, very good for setting it back, right there with the Basic on Ink and Jones Mountain Twin. As far as switch goes and riding the mountain in a mountain freestyle kind of way or going to the park, this 1LF was great. I really didn't spend a lot of time in the park, but I did a lot of old man half pipe laps where I'm just carving the walls, and I had so much fun on the Rossi 1LF. All of these were pretty good. The Revanent and the Resurgance were all really fun in the pipe because they had that extra grip and they're very forgiving. All three of them are great pipe boards. Again, I kind of like the 1LF a little better. So overall, I think you have a very versatile board with the 1LF And of all three of these, the 1LF was definitely my favorite. Just felt the best turning, felt the best buttering, felt the best all around. In just about every situation, I like this a little bit better. So I think the extra $50 is definitely worth it here. But the one drawback is if you really like to carve and you really like snappy, poppy, drivey turns, none of these boards are really going to work for you. The Jigsaw and the Juggernaut did just such a better job. I wish it had the Jigsaw's camber profile, and then it would kill it. It would be a good ride favorite, and it would be a highly recommendable board. But as it stands, it's still a very good board, especially if you prefer buttering and playing around on the mountain more than you do carving and turning, then this will be your board. All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, and we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now, if you need advice, fill out the eHarmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So, thanks for watching.